I believe this will ultimately be the longest tornado in certainly U.S. history, from the point where it touched down to when it finally picked back up.
Rescue teams are searching for survivors in the Southeast and Midwest in that devastating tornado outbreak.
New at 9, how volunteers in Utah are lending a helping hand to those who have lost everything.
We have no idea what's happened.
We just want her back.
Missing for weeks, loved ones are searching desperately for a Salt Lake County woman. Tonight, her family explains what happened the night she disappeared.
I knew that I needed to share what we were going through.
And more than a year and a half after losing their 2 daughters, one West Jordan woman is looking to turn a negative into a positive for others who have felt her pain. We'll explain how in a Fox 13 exclusive.
Another storm is coming in, when it will arrive, how much rain and snow will produce, all coming up.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight for Fox 13 News at 9. I'm Brian Schnee.
And I'm Amy Nay. Tonight, rescuers are scrambling to find survivors trapped in rubble after dozens of deadly tornadoes slammed through 6 states this weekend.
But as time passes, officials worry the missions are changing from search and rescue to search and recovery. Kentucky was hit the hardest by the tornadoes. At least 60 people have died there. But the destruction is so bad, it could be days or weeks before we get a more accurate death toll.
That number is going to exceed more than 100. This is the deadliest tornado event we have ever had. I think it's going to be the longest and deadliest tornado event in U.S. history.
The tornado outbreak also killed more than a dozen people in Arkansas, Tennessee, Missouri, and Illinois, where 6 people died in the partial collapse of an Amazon facility. President Joe Biden says he will be on the ground at some point to survey the damage in Mayfield, Kentucky.
I want folks in all these states to know we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together, and the federal government is not going to walk away. This is one of those times when we aren't Democrats or Republicans. Sounds like hyperbole, but it's real. We're all Americans.
Meantime, the first Utah volunteers are deploying tonight to Kentucky to assist after that severe weather there.
Fox 13's Eliana Sheriff spoke to the American Red Cross about how Utahns can get involved to assist in what will likely be a long recovery.
This is where the humanity comes out. When something like this happens, so many people come out to help.
Volunteers with the American Red Cross are working all hours to help feed, shelter, clothe, and support the victims of the deadly tornadoes that ripped across several states.
2 Red Cross volunteers from Utah are already en route, and 4 more are set to deploy tomorrow. Benjamin says even more are on standby.
Making sure that they're there in a safe place and have enough to eat, that's priority number 1.
Those volunteers have been trained. They're now headed to Ground Zero to provide help with basic needs.
We help bring them up to speed to make sure that they know what they're doing, that they feel confident.
And more Utahns are expected to head out in the following weeks.
Who can leave now? Who can leave in 2 weeks from now? Because this isn't just today.
Transportation and shelter for volunteers is all covered by the American Red Cross. So all they need to worry about is how to help once they get there.
That's where the power of our donors comes in. Because the American Red Cross, we operate on the donations of those amazing individuals out there that believe in this mission. And so we're not government funded. So all of that is provided by our donors.
And the Red Cross has another way you can help them.
We're already in a situation where the need for blood is super high.
The blood shortage is compounded by COVID and this disaster. If you can give blood, Benjamin says, please consider making an appointment.
But knowing that help is on its way from across the country just makes me feel proud to be part of such an amazing organization.
In Salt Lake City, Eliana Sheriff, Fox 13 News, Utah.
And the folks with the Red Cross want us to remind you that every donation counts. You can help by going to redcross.org. You can also call 1-800-RED-CROSS.
New videos showing the aftermath of the tornadoes that hit so much of the Midwest Friday night brings the same sinking feeling that comes with utter devastation. Matt Pearl is in Mayfield, Kentucky tonight with stories of kindness emerging from the city's pain.
At a certain point,
It all seems so vast. In Mayfield, Kentucky, downtown is destroyed. Every turn brings an incomprehensible image. Just days since tornadoes drove through town, it's tough to put what took place into context.
I hadn't been out to my car since this happened.
And then you meet Sarah Bryan.
I mean, my mother's right there.
Her mother's ashes are in the bag beside her. Sarah lost her mom last month. Now, she may have lost her home.
We're waiting to basically see if our landlord's going to repair. Yeah, I just kind of lost it for a good solid 20, 25 minutes, thinking what we're going to do, where we're going to go. I can't imagine going around that corner and seeing the flattened houses I've been hearing about. I'm not sure I need to see it right now, to be perfectly honest.
Some don't have that choice.
It has not hit me yet. I've had little moments.
In a town that built its name on manufacturing, Keith Crouch owns the largest sign manufacturing plant in town. Now his buildings have been flattened. He hopes insurance will help, but what bothers him beyond his business is all that won't come back.
Every church is destroyed. Tornado didn't have a preference. It means a lot to me.
You gonna pray today?
I have several times, and I will, yes.
Faith and community extend far beyond Mayfield.
On our way here, we just started seeing damage. It's just truly heartbreaking.
Chad Fry came from eastern Kentucky, 4.5 hours away. His volunteer fire crew came out with chainsaws, supplies, and for so many, necessary grace.
It takes the community coming together as one and just everybody helping each other and just lend a helping hand to help your community out.
Among all, there is shock. There is the need to suppress the tears just to get through the moment. And then,
oh, thank God. I know. Hi.
There are moments like this.
I know. Oh, I know.
Sarah's in-laws drove from Tennessee to provide 2 sets of hands and outstretched arms. The release is real.
Hi. I love you. I love you too.
And then,
let's get out the street.
It's back to work. Cleaning, planning, trying to make sense of something so vast. In Mayfield, Kentucky, I'm Matt Pearl.
More national headlines right now as top federal emergency management officials predict that those devastating storms that tore through parts of central U.S. will become more commonplace. FEMA Administrator Drianne Criswell blamed climate change for the deadly storms.
This is going to be our new normal, and the effects that we're seeing from climate change are the crisis of our generation. We're taking a lot of efforts at FEMA to work with communities to help reduce the impacts that we're seeing from these severe weather events and help to develop system-wide projects that can help protect communities.
Criswell said the severity, duration, and magnitude of the storms this late in the year were unprecedented. President Joe Biden said it was too early to know the specific impact climate change had on the recent storms. He said he would ask the Environmental Protection Agency to further assess.
Well, to see all that damage just breaks your heart. I mean, something we're very fortunate that we're doing okay here.
Yeah, we don't have nearly the tornadic problem that they do there.
Right.
But this particular tornado, the longest duration in history since April 3rd, 1974. It's been since we've had anything like this. This is really out of character for December. That's right, that one happened in April, a little more typical time. But around here we have some high winds coming in. We have some winter storm warnings out there in Ely. We have high wind warnings. They're here in Wyoming. Winter weather advisories. I mean, this is all coming our way eventually. Temperature outside, 43 degrees right now, feels like 35, still a bit of a south wind, 17 miles per hour. In fact, the winds are going to continue to blow, which means we're not going to have any problems with air quality. That's the good news. But the winds will be pretty high, 43 Salt Lake, 40 in Ogden, 38 in Provo. And as I mentioned, the winds are out here. Look at this, across southern Idaho, now over Nevada, gusts to 39 miles per hour. Winds have subsided a little bit in Wyoming, but they are going to continue. And it's quite a bit warmer tonight. Look at the delta temperature change. 20 degrees warmer, 12 degrees warmer in Salt Lake City. Here's our current temperatures outside right now. It's 8 at Bryce Canyon. It's 16 in Vernal. But tomorrow, look for a high of 50. There'll be some showers on the northern Wasatch Front. The big storm comes in later Tuesday, and there's more after that. Details coming up.
Dan, thank you. Now to an update on breaking news that we've been following all day long. South Jordan police say 4 young girls who were the subject of an Amber Alert this morning have been found safe. Investigators believe the children's mother, 39-year-old Allison Brimhall, had come to Utah from her home in California to pick them up without telling the children's father. Well, she has visitation rights, but only under supervision. So with the help of police in California, the mother and children were all found in a home in San Diego this morning.
They are safe. We're working on trying to get them back here to Utah and then work with the district attorney's office on screening the case and figure out if or what any charges mom may be facing in regards to all this.
South Jordan police say the Amber Alert did not go out until early this morning because they had to make sure the case met the requirements for the alert. They also say there was an issue with the state system that delayed it even further.
Well, a Salt Lake County family now searching for their loved one.
They haven't seen or heard from Valerie Gardner since Thanksgiving weekend. Tonight, they're hoping the public can offer clues to her whereabouts.
Fox 13's John Franke is in West Valley City now with the latest on their search.
We are really worried because this is not at all usual for her to be out of touch and to have no one know where she is for this long.
These are photos of Valerie Gardner. Each minute that goes by without any word about her whereabouts or safety seems like an eternity to her sister Becky.
We have no idea what's happened.
Becky last saw Valerie on Thanksgiving.
Just normal, eating good food, watching the kids play. Nothing unusual.
The next day, on Black Friday, Becky says Valerie reported for a shift at Sundance Clothing Company in West Valley City. She hasn't been seen since she drove away from the office that evening.
A supervisor or someone from where she works called me because I'm her emergency contact there to say that she hadn't come into work that Saturday.
Valerie's loved ones are concerned because she suffers from epilepsy and migraines, and going off the grid is not something they believe she would do.
As time goes on, without hearing anything, it's very upsetting.
That's why they're hoping someone out there may have seen something and can provide clues that help bring Valerie home.
We just want her back.
Because Valerie lives in Salt Lake City police are investigating. They say if you know where she may be, to give them a call. In West Valley City, John Franke, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, lots more ahead on Fox 13 News at 9. Still to come, hear how a local mother who lost her children in a flash flood is looking to help others. It's a story you'll only see right here tonight.
Plus, could a new drug be a game changer in the fight against COVID-19? Who can't take a vaccine? We'll explain.
We hear all the time that, well, I didn't lose a child, so I can't relate. That's not, everybody's struggle is different.
It's been just over 19 months since Becky and Tim Graff lost their 2 daughters after flash flood waters ripped through Little Wild Horse Canyon just outside of Goblin Valley. Becky was also caught in the flood that day. Both she and her husband have been grieving ever since. Now, back in May, I spoke with them about how they've been working to cope with the loss of their 2 children. Now, they both are trying to help others who deal with their own struggles of any kind. Take a look.
They were swept away May 11th of 2020. The day that Becky and Tim Graff's lives changed forever.
We just went from a young family to empty nesters overnight.
It's the day they lost 3-year-old Alexia and 7-year-old McKinsley, who were swept away in a flash flood. But a lot has changed since that day, and since I last spoke with Becky and Tim back in May of this year.
It wasn't until the end of July, actually, that I finally committed to okay, this needs to happen.
While trying to grapple with tragedy that cut their family in half, Becky began to write down her thoughts and methods of coping.
I knew that I needed to share what we were going through and the kind of unconventional ways in which we dealt with our grieving process, the things that we did.
From July to November, Becky wrote a book called Swept Away, a true story of grief and acceptance.
The title is very powerful right away and obviously very personal, but how did you choose the title for this book?
As we processed through a bunch of different options for titles, that's too big, that's too wordy, that doesn't quite capture it. It just came back to something very simple and something very, very accurate. because our world was swept away.
Becky says that the book is for anyone, not just those who have experienced the loss of a child. It's about processing struggle, learning from experiences, and overcoming challenges.
This truthfully was a very difficult thing to do, and I just feel very honored to be in a place, that we're in a place in our journey that this is something that we can share with other people in the hope that it does help them.
The book was officially released yesterday, December 11th. That is 19 months from the day of the tragedy involving the Graff family, where they lost their 2 little girls. If you'd like to get a copy of Swept Away, a true story of grief and acceptance, we'll link you there on our website, fox13now.com.
In national news tonight, authorities in Pennsylvania are believed to have identified and spoiled a plot for a school shooting at a high school there. 2 teenagers were arrested this week after a security breach at their school. After taking them into custody, investigators conducted search warrants at one of the teens' homes. They ended up finding 5 AR-15s, a rifle, a shotgun, and additional ammunition. Both teenagers will be charged as adults. And in the state of Washington, 1 person was killed after being caught in an avalanche there that swept up 5 other people. This one happened yesterday in a backcountry ski area on Crystal Mountain. Now, local ski resort officials say the skiers may have triggered the avalanche in an area not open yet for the season. All of the skiers were wearing beacons and were able to rescue themselves or get each other out, except for the 60-year-old man who passed away in the slide. Some of the skiers' loved ones were with him at the time of his death.
They're shaken. This is not something that they expected to be dealing with at this time of the day, as you can imagine. This is a really painful reminder to every backcountry skier about how important it is, to always be taking care.
The Crystal Mountain Resort reported winds of up to nearly 100 miles per hour at the summit Saturday morning. With 11 inches of snow just a day before the avalanche, officials say skiers were made aware there was a considerable avalanche risk this weekend.
Well, 'tis the season to be concerned about avalanches, not just in Washington, but right here in Utah, too, with that fresh new snow, that unsettled snowpack from October, of course, Dan, and then more on the way. Could shake it up.
And that layer that's unstable right now, we've added about 2 feet to it. We'll add another 2 feet, maybe 3 feet in the coming weeks, and that will always be a layer we'll have to deal with big slides, bigger and bigger slides. So we're going to have to be extremely careful. Got to tell you, folks, this is the time to think ahead. Make sure you know what you're doing before you go into the backcountry, and I'll let you know when the storms are coming. In fact, they are edging our way right now, hitting California with a lot of rain, and it's all coming up from the subtropics, from Honolulu, Hawaii. Sometimes we call it the pineapple connection. This one, though, has more of a tropical connection here. It's pulling this moisture up. So as it does, the atmosphere is juiced. It has a lot of moisture in it, and it's producing very heavy rain in parts of California. The Sierra is getting hit hard with feet of snow, and eventually this weather is going to come underneath the south end of the Sierra. So when that happens, we don't have the big Sierra causing a rain shadow. You can see that rain shadow right there. When this comes in, it's going to come straight up into southwest Utah, and it'll have a better chance of reaching St. George, Las Vegas, and some of the partially dry areas with substantial precipitation. The other thing that will be substantial is wind. Winds are gusting right now over 30 miles per hour in parts of Nevada, but going forward, we're going to see the winds increase. Here we are Monday, 2 p.m. Look at this, 40, 55 mile per hour wind gusts in the purple, the red where you're going to see up to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. And this continues. Here we are Monday at 11 p.m. and here comes the front. Very high winds across southwest Utah, and that'll persist into Tuesday before they finally diminish on Wednesday. In the meantime, 43 outside right now. Southeast winds at 17 miles per hour, and that's pretty strong for this time of the night. Not a lot of wind in St. George yet, but on Tuesday you'll see the winds. The temperatures cold in Vernal and Price, 8 in Bryce Canyon. But where the winds are blowing, Salt Lake City, we're sitting in the low 40s. So here comes a slight chance for showers early in the morning on Monday, but probably just enough to mess up a good car wash. Not likely to produce any substantial rain, but look at the cold front as it comes in. This is Tuesday at 3 p.m. There it is. It comes up to about 5, 6 p.m., moderate rain. So this all starts as rain, turns to snow, and that snow will continue. Here we are at 3 a.m., and then a chance for some snow in the Weber and Davis County areas, maybe some lake-enhanced precipitation on Wednesday. And here we go again Thursday. another storm comes by, and that could linger with some snow on Friday. And the storms are just sort of lined up as we go into the weekend. Saturday into Sunday, a slight chance for snow once again on Sunday. So very active weather pattern. Tomorrow's high temperatures. 30s in the colder pockets in the east, 45 to 50 along the Wasatch Front, 40s and 50s in the southwest part of the state. And those temperatures, well, they'll warm to 56 Tuesday. And this is a rain. Rain Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night, and heavy rain, possibly up to an inch around St. George. Most of the other storms are going to be primarily over northern Utah. Still 40s for highs. That's gold. We'll have rain Tuesday afternoon. Rain turns to snow Tuesday night, and that will continue as snow on Wednesday morning. So chance for a couple of inches in the valleys. This will be a 1 to about a 12 to 18 inch storm for the ski areas. Here we go for Friday, high of 29. Saturday, 33 and sunny. Another storm Sunday, Monday, another one on Wednesday, and I'm tracking one more. Christmas Eve.
Sounds wonderful, Dan. Thanks so much. Much more for you coming up here. Still ahead, how Cougars and Utes are setting their differences aside for a greater cause.
And the message families of gun violence victims have as they honor the lives of their loved ones taken too soon. We'll be right back.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight for Fox 13 News at 9. A community of all walks of life gathering to honor and remember all those who have lost their lives to gun violence. The Gun Violence Prevention Center of Utah teaming up with the Presbyterian Church to host the vigil for their annual interfaith service to remember more than 400 lives lost to gun violence in Utah in 2020. One of the lives honored tonight was the life of Kelly Globinski, who was shot and killed this past summer. He was only 19 years old when he passed away.
It's not just our little brother Kelly, it's so many other people. And I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. Going through this and seeing your loved ones just broken.
The vigil has happened each year since 2013, the year following the Sandy Hook mass school shooting in Massachusetts.
Tonight, the Cultivate Craft Kitchen in Draper is opening its doors to foster kids and teaming up with college athletes to make a difference. University of Utah and BYU football players are setting their rivalry aside to serve foster kids a warm family dinner. The idea sprung from Ute offensive lineman Nick Ford, who wanted to share what a Sunday meal with family meant to him with kids in foster care.
So, I mean, it always means a lot to everybody when they have the opportunity to give back to the community, especially with our stage that we have, being football players for a great university, so it means a lot.
Athletes and other volunteers prepared meatloaf and mashed potatoes from scratch, and they served them to foster families.
Well, looks pretty good. All right, coming up in our next half hour, the FDA has approved a new drug in the fight against COVID-19. I'll tell you more about it and who's eligible for it.
Plus, schools in Utah and across the country are ramping up their efforts against e-cigarette manufacturer Juul. We'll show you coming up. Thanks for joining us tonight at 9:30. Amy Nay, Brian Schnee with you. Doctors say a newly authorized COVID drug could be a turning point for millions of Americans with weakened immune systems.
This past week, the FDA gave emergency authorization to AstraZeneca for a new antibody drug designed to help those who cannot benefit from vaccines. Derek Stahl is going in depth on whether it can stand up against Omicron.
I am thrilled.
Brian Kaufman was one of the first people in the world to get AstraZeneca's new drug, Evusheld. He got it during the company's clinical trial back in January. So when the FDA authorized the drug Wednesday as 77% effective at preventing COVID, it was a special moment for Kaufman.
This is a way for us to enjoy the world, to get back again into the world.
The retired physician is one of about 7 million Americans with a compromised immune system. For them, vaccines don't work as well. For some, they may not work at all.
The immunocompromised community has sat on its hands watching the rest of the world get back into eating out, going to movies, visiting friends, attending sporting events, and we felt increasingly frustrated and isolated.
But Evusheld is seen by many as the next best thing to a vaccine. Instead of training the body to churn out its own defensive antibodies, Evusheld is a cocktail of pre-made antibodies from a lab. These monoclonal antibodies are similar to ones from Eli Lilly and Regeneron that are used to treat the sick. But AstraZeneca's antibodies are engineered to be particularly long-lasting, for at least 6 months. They can be given as a shot, not a lengthy IV infusion, and they're the very first authorized purely for prevention before an infection or an exposure.
We've been waiting to have that similar kind of protection that others get through vaccinations, and this will offer that. Is it 100%? No.
Evusheld has been proven against the Delta variant, but AstraZeneca is racing to study it against Omicron. Early studies on other antibodies by Regeneron and Eli Lilly suggest they will be less effective against the variant. But AstraZeneca's antibodies stick to different parts of the virus, and outside scientists say there are theoretical reasons to think Evusheld may fare better.
Do we know what its activity against Omicron is? We don't. But we're excited that this gives us an opportunity and then to weigh our risks and decide what chances are we going to be able to take.
Kaufman says he's hopeful the drug will offer at least some immunity against Omicron. The federal government has already agreed to buy 700,000 doses of Evusheld. It plans to start shipping them in the next few weeks. Derek Stahl, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The FDA says vaccines remain the best defense for people with healthy immune systems. To get Evusheld, you must have a compromised immune system or a vaccine allergy and be at least 12 years old or older.
Hundreds of school districts across the country have joined a lawsuit against the makers of Juul vape products. Now, that includes about 10 districts here in the state of Utah. Jesse Cohen shows us the effort aimed at reducing e-cigarette use among teenagers.
From a health professional standpoint, the challenge is that we haven't done anything to decrease nicotine addiction. That while we have absolutely decreased combustible cigarette smoking, we've just replaced those risks with different types of risk.
School districts from California to New York have signed onto a lawsuit that could shape the future of e-cigarettes. The districts claim that Juul Labs Incorporated targeted teens in the marketing of their products, harming the schools that educate those kids in the process. Amy Peak is the director of undergraduate health science programs at Butler University.
We are shifting the risk, so maybe the risk isn't as much lung cancer as it was previously, but we see completely different types of lung disease. We see higher addiction rates, and then we see more gateways into other things.
She says the problem at this point reaches far beyond Juul.
I think that Juul was the leader of the pack. It became a verb, not a noun. People Juuled. They were Juuling.
The company stopped selling flavored products in 2019. They also pulled all U.S. advertising.
They have taken some very responsible steps and likely ahead of some legislation that was inevitable.
You know, I think about how easy it was for me in college to start smoking. I can't imagine how much easier it is for a kid to, you know, if they can get their hands on it, to become addicted to some sort of fruit-flavored or candy-flavored e-cigarette.
Wendy Hornsby is the parent of 2 students within Indianapolis Public Schools.
I think that's great. I think that's just another facet of our school district caring about our kids' safety.
She worries this lawsuit won't go far enough. More than 2 million U.S. youth currently use e-cigarettes, according to the 2021 Annual National Youth Tobacco Survey. Of that group, most teenagers are using flavored e-cigs. About 1 in 4 use them daily.
So what you see now are things like puff bars that are all of those really enticing flavors. There's no difference between a puff bar and a Juul, other than one is not a reusable device.
Juul says it is trying to be responsible. In response to the survey, the company acknowledged, quote, "We will only be trusted to provide alternatives to adult smokers if we continue to combat underage use, respect the central role of our regulator, and build on our shared commitment to science and evidence."
Well, and I think there is a misperception that e-cigarettes aren't as dangerous, you know, right? Like, you can't see the tobacco like you can see it in a cigarette. So I do wonder if people just think, oh, this is probably safer. And you do hear about people going to vaping as a wean off of smoking.
Very often it's to self-medicate for anxiety that is uncontrolled. Sometimes it's from a depression standpoint. The use of nicotine and other addictive substances and mental health disorders go hand in hand.
Amy says we can't combat this issue without working on a larger issue, adolescent mental health.
I am very concerned that we have a larger number of youth addicted to nicotine than we have had previously. Like, we were making good progress, and all of that progress has gone away.
In Indianapolis, I'm Jessie Cohen reporting.
If no settlement is reached, a trial would begin in March of next year.
Well, this just into the Fox 13 newsroom. Police in Tremonton are investigating several potential threats involving the high school and the middle school there in town. Police just putting this update on social media in the last hour. School administrators have already contacted parents, they say, about the situation. School will be in session as normal tomorrow, but there will be extra police officers at some of the schools as a precaution.
Still to come, we're going to introduce you to 2 winners of this year's Nobel Peace Prize.
And don't forget, when you can't watch Fox 13 live, you can watch us streaming online for free on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. Just search for Fox 13 on your device. We're there, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Some world headlines as the CDC evaluates America's current travel restrictions on countries in southern Africa.
It was instituted last month after the Omicron variant of COVID-19 was identified there. Dr. Anthony Fauci says the agency is trying to determine if or when it might be time to lift those restrictions.
The CDC will be doing some modeling studies that they literally have started already to determine what the risk of increased influx of patients, balance of individuals who are infected, balanced against the already existing infection in our own country.
The new Omicron variant has been detected across the globe and in the United States. Dr. Fauci said public health experts hope to have data from those modeling studies this week.
In Norway, meantime, 2 journalists sharing this year's Nobel Peace Prize for their separate fights for freedom of expression. In accepting the prestigious award at Oslo City Hall, Maria Ressa of the Philippines and fellow laureate Dmitry Muratov of Russia both emphasized the significance of independent journalism free from authoritarian governments. It's the first time journalists received the Nobel Prize since 1935.
By giving this to journalists today, thank you. The Nobel Committee is signaling a similar historical moment, another existential point for democracy.
In addition to the gold medal and the diploma, a $1.1 million prize will also be shared between the 2 recipients.
Coming up next, we have winter storm watches, winter storm warnings, high wind watches, high wind warnings. I'll tell you all about it and what to expect coming up.
And in sports, the Broncos honored former teammate Demaryius Thomas after he was his unexpected death last week. And it was an all BYU quarterback matchup between the Saints and Jets. The highlights are on the way.
So glad you could join us tonight for Fox 13 News at 9. Fox 13 meteorologist Dan Pope will have your first alert forecast in just a moment, tracking a couple more storms for us in the coming week.
Couple more moving this way. To some entertainment news tonight. Was West Side Story able to sing and dance its way to the top of the box office in America?
I can't wait to see this one. David Daniel has our early estimates on the weekend's top 5 films.
Eternals made $3.1 million for 5th place and a domestic total of $161 million. House of Gucci fell to 4th with a fashionable $4.1 million. Ghostbusters Afterlife took 3rd with $7.1 million, reaching $112 million domestic.
She was about to tell us about her super awesome gift! Oh, Mirabel didn't get one.
After 2 weekends on top, Encanto fell to 2nd, but $9.4 million gave the animated musical a domestic total of $71 million.
Tonight, it all began tonight. I saw you and the world went away.
West Side Story debuted with $10.5 million, well below expectations, but enough to claim the weekend crown. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Well, the woman who sparked a craze for vampires, you could say, has now passed away. Author Anne Rice died Saturday after suffering complications from a stroke. Rice, of course, was best known for her best-selling novel, Interview with the Vampire, which was later adapted into a film with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Rice's son says she will be buried in a private ceremony in New Orleans. A public memorial being planned for next year. Anne Rice was 80 years old.
Well, turning to weather now, busy weekend on the slopes for those resorts that were open. Some still waiting to get underway. But, Dan, it looks like those that have not been able to spin the lifts so far this year might get a much-needed boost this week.
They'll spin and get a win. Now, we got some snow coming. It's already starting. Tropical moisture being pulled north. This is an atmospheric river, but like it's tapping into additional moisture. So where it's raining hard in California, they've been seeing 1 to 3 inches, maybe even as much as 5 inches in the foothills before it changes over to snow in the Sierra. They'll see anywhere from 3 to 5 feet or more of snow. Travel is tricky there. Moisture will eventually come down around the southern end of the Sierra. That's a good flow for southwestern Utah. Likely to see up to an inch of rain in those partially dry areas of Nevada as well as southwest Utah. All of the state is desperately in need of precipitation. We have winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings for Ely, White Pine County. You've got the Elko County area under the advisory, high wind watches here across Nevada, high wind warnings for Wyoming. I mean, it's a plethora of all kinds of things going on. And here's what to expect. A few showers in the north tomorrow. Then on Tuesday afternoon, rain turns to snow Tuesday night. And then again, some snow and breezy weather on Thursday. Other storms are lined up as well. Right now, 43 in the capital city with a southeast wind 17. It gives us a wind chill or a feels like of 35. Not much wind in St. George, kind of protected from those winds that have been hitting southwest Utah and over in Nevada. But you will see your wind. Believe me, it's coming. 16 right now in Vernal, 22 in Price, 24 in Moab. Cold air is trapped in the eastern valleys where the winds haven't been able to scour out the cold air, but you can tell we have a bit of what I call a hot 2. That's the south wind ahead of a storm. It's Utah spelled backwards, okay? But it's a hot 2. Cold front coming in, have a hot 2. All right, this is what it'll look like Monday afternoon. And here's Tuesday. The warm ahead of the storm, and then the cold comes in behind it. Rain turns over to snow, but it's going to take until the nighttime hours. Here it is. By 1 a.m., everybody's seeing some snow, especially in the mountains, anywhere from 1 to 2 feet. And this storm has some very cold air behind it. Enhanced lake effect will keep Davis and Salt Lake counties and even possibly parts of Utah County in some snow. Then as we head into Thursday, it's another storm. Thursday night and Friday morning, lingering cold air across the warmer waters of the Great Salt Lake, keeping Salt Lake County, Davis County a bit on the wet side. This is, again, Friday, 7 a.m., It's still trying to snow in the afternoon in Davis and northern Salt Lake counties and Weber counties. Quiet on Saturday, and then Sunday we have another little storm coming by. It'll brush in Sunday and Monday to keep us active weather-wise as we head into the holiday week. 49 for a high in Provo, 33 in Vernal, 51 in Kanab, 50 in the capital city. St. George, 7-day forecast. Rain, heavy at times Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night. It'll be gone by Wednesday. The rest of the week, chilly. Lows in the 20s, highs in the 40s. The Wasatch Front, we're looking at 44 temperatures for Monday, and then it gets colder with the snow coming in. Sunday, Monday, again, temperatures in the upper 20s and low 30s for highs. Look at these lows in the single digits, maybe teens to the 13, 22 range by next week. And it looks like some snow Christmas Eve. That's a look at your weather forecast.
Week 14 of the NFL season had a matchup featuring two former BYU quarterbacks now starting in the NFL, with Taysom Hill and the New Orleans Saints against Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. While Taysom and the Saints still battling for a playoff spot, Zach and the Jets just trying to get a little better each day. Second quarter, we pick it up and Wilson is back to pass. He decides to tuck it and run, finds room and takes it 18 yards to the Saints' 38-yard line, setting up a Jets field goal. We know Hill can run it, gets to the outside and gets in for the touchdown. put the Saints up 23-6 in the third quarter. Then in the fourth, Hill finds a seam and takes it all the way. 44 yards for another touchdown. Hill wins the battle between the BYU QBs. The Saints won at 30-9 to improve to 6-7. The Ravens took on the Browns. Baltimore starting quarterback Lamar Jackson went down with an injury in the second quarter, so former Utah Ute Tyler Huntley played the rest of the game. Just before the half, Huntley was hit as he was throwing it. Myles Garrett forced the fumble and picked it up, took it in for a touchdown. That put the Browns up 24-3. But Huntley led a comeback attempt in the second half, fourth quarter, 4th and 6. Huntley, perfect pass to Rashad Bateman, makes the catch 30 yards to the 8-yard line. Next play, Huntley to Mark Andrews in the end zone. That touchdown cut the lead to 2 with 1:17 to play. The Ravens recovered the onside kick, needed the big play on 4th to stay alive. They did not get it. Browns held on to win it 24-22. The Broncos took on the Lions, and the Broncos started the game with just 10 players on their first snap to honor Demarius Thomas, who passed away this week. The Broncos also had a moment of silence before the game and had a number 88 decal on their helmets to pay tribute to Thomas. They also played well. Melvin Gordon scored, Broncos up 14-0. Then in the third quarter, Teddy Bridgewater to Javonte Williams. 10-yard touchdown, and the Broncos were up 24-10. They kept it rolling. Gordon once again breaks free, goes 14 yards for the score. The Broncos won it 38-10. On a great afternoon while honoring Demarius Thomas. The Raiders took on the Chiefs. The Raiders decided to meet up on Kansas City's logo before the game. Probably not a good idea. The Chiefs came out playing great. They forced a fumble, and Mike Hughes picked it up, takes it to the house, 7-0 Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense got it rolling. Mahomes to Darrell Williams, 23-yard touchdown. The route was on. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 2 touchdown runs in the second half as the Chiefs jumped out to a 35-0 lead. They beat the Raiders 48-9. Coming up tonight on the sports page, we'll look back at a great road trip for the Utah Jazz with Jazz beat writer for the Salt Lake Tribune, Eric Walden, plus RSL as they continue their search for a new head coach and owner. Big news from BYU with their contract extension for Kalani Sitake, and we'll hear from former Olympic silver medalist and incoming Utah gymnast Grace McCallum.
Stacked sports page tonight. That was a great road trip for the Jazz.
Oh, they're playing great. 7 wins in a row.
Got to do it at home now.
Yeah.
Now you just got to come home and take care of business.
They'll be home for the holidays.
Very nice. Home for the holidays with the Jazz. Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back. Finally, tonight, he told us if the price was right for decades. Today, legendary game show host Bob Barker celebrates his 98th birthday. He hosted The Price is Right for 35 years until his retirement in 2007. He was on the airwaves for nearly 60 years. Of course, big happy birthday to Bob Barker.
And remember to get your pets spayed or neutered. That's what I'll leave you with tonight at 9. Hey, don't go anywhere. Quick Cast is next.